Namaskar, everybody. So if you take the first question and read it, and we will only stay up to question number 1 today. And then next week, maybe we'll take a few questions. And they're up to this 8th question, 7 questions. They're simple for explanation of what I is all about. So I'm going to give, and I'm going to read this, who am I? And those, all of you should have it. We did send a link to it. So if you have it in front of you, you can please read along. All living beings desire to be happy always, without any misery. In everyone, there is observed supreme love for oneself. And happiness alone is the cause of love. In order, therefore, to gain that happiness, which is one's nature and which is experienced in the state of deep sleep, when there is no mind, one should know oneself. To achieve this, the path of knowledge, the inquiry in the form of who am I, is the principal means. Question 1. Who am I? The gross body, which is composed of the 7 humors, dhatus, I am not. There's a whole composition by Shankaracharya on Neti Neti. The gross body, which is composed of the 7 humors, the dhatus, I am not. The 5 cognitive sense organs, viz. The senses of hearing, touch, sight, taste, and smell, which apprehend their respective objects like sound, touch, color, taste, and odor. I am not. The first cognitive sense organs, viz. The organs of speech, locomotion, grasping, excretion, and procreation, which have as their respective functions speaking, moving, grasping, excreting, and enjoying. I'm not. The 5 vital airs, prana, which perform respectively the 5 functions of in-breathing, out-breathing, etc. I'm not. Even the mind, which thinks, I'm not. The nescience, too, which is endowed only with the residual impressions. Nescience, lack of knowledge, which is endowed with the residual impressions of objects, and in which there are no objects and no functionings. I'm not. So this is complete negation of what I think I am, because I always think of my body, my breathing, my sensitivities, my touch, and my feeling, my emotions, and my possessions. And Neti philosophy elucidates and clarifies that you are none of these. All these are functions of this body that you are housed in, and you think you are the body. Going further, Bhagavan did suggest, and so does Upanishad suggest, that that's a practice only for the novice. That's a practice for those who are not yet clear about who am I. They can think like that and say, I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this. It's like eliminating the shirt to say, the shirt is not me. Underneath the shirt is the body. What is your body? Where is your body? It's under my clothing. Similarly, where is I? Under and beyond my body. So I'm none of these functions of this body. And therefore, ultimately, Vedanta says, don't worry about what you do. That comes from your psyche, id. Ego and id is another 2 words we should be clear about. Ego is the manifestation of the mind, which adheres to, like resin, and sticks to it to define myself, from birth to birth to birth to birth to birth. And id, which is this, idam, this that I am, this limited functionality of me, my psyche. Because the mind, it also is the psyche. Where is it coming from? Where are my habits coming from? Where are my vasanas coming from? Why do I have such a peculiar nature? Why do I like certain things? Why don't I like certain things? What pleases me? What displeases me? Which is absolutely an individual entity, which does not meet 100% with anybody else's, comes close to many other people. But I have yet a very peculiar nature, that is my id. So we should be clear when we read Who Am I, that first of all, if we are blessed enough, if the blessings have been given to us, we would know that these teachings come to us only because we had the paripakvata, the ripeness to be exposed to them. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been exposed. That much goodness we already had to be exposed to this. And for us who think that, oh, I got exposed to it for such a long period in my life, and those who say, oh, I wish I'd come to know about it earlier, both are erroneous feelings, because it is not time-bound. Time is only a mental definition again. That's why we talked about the moment. Time is only, again, a mental definition which wasn't there. Go back to great-grandfather's great-grandfather didn't have a watch. They did not know when they were born. There was no calendar 2,000, 3,000 years back. So if we are mature enough to trace back my attachment to my objects, I can very easily reach a state of mind where I can say I didn't have even the basic things that are taken for granted to be my life. And none of these things would have existed unless the mind had the nature of multiplicity and speed, constantly multiplying, constantly permutation, combinations to the nth degree. So that's our question number one on who am I. Sivaprakasam Pillai stayed a devotee of Bhagavan all throughout his life, did not ever spend too many long stays at the ashram with Bhagavan, but constantly stayed in touch with him. He was the only person who admitted some of his real weaknesses in front of everybody in presence of Bhagavan. And when he died, his news came, he died before Bhagavan had left his body. I don't remember the year right now, but when he was told that Sivaprakasam Pillai died, Bhagavan said in Tamil, Sivaprakasam Pillai, Sivaprakasam Bhava, something like that. And I don't remember the Tamil part, which means that Sivaprakasam Pillai has merged with Shiva. Because he spoke the truth about himself, because he knew what he was made of. And that's another thing that Bandhu has always been fond of referring to, saying, let's know our nature. But we have to get beyond our definitions. Even my religion, even my faith, even calling myself a Ramana devotee is the definition of my mind, and I must get beyond it. This is the ultimate. We are talking about Vichar Marga, which is the ultimate way of understanding when these self-realized souls are born. We can, if we read their lives a little bit, we can tell they did not go to any school or graduate school to learn about it. It came from within them because of their ripeness from previous births. And we can all aspire to be that, because our wealth, our spiritual wealth, does not diminish. Even for a day when a person thinks about it, that stays. That does not diminish. That's in fixed deposit. Sorry to have been constantly talking. Please, very happy to see everybody. What time is it? 9:44. Any comments? Anything one wants to add for who am I? Or for whatever, for that matter, please. When our mind goes into defining things, trying to clarify things, let it clarify, but also let a substratum of that thought also start to become a practice as to why am I asking these questions? Where are these thoughts coming from? Where is this thought of the intellectualism of this coming from? Why is it? What is it going to get to me? If I don't understand my own nature, will anything else really help? Understanding my nature, to know my ultimate nature, is the biggest education I can have. If I'm clear about myself, like Vivekananda used to say, you know yourself first before you come and tell me, how can I love God? Do you love yourself? Once we know our weaknesses, just as we know when we know a subject matter, if we become focused on a particular subject, whether we become a subject matter expert or not, I don't know, but some of us may have been subject matter experts, I don't know. Only when we begin to go deeper into a subject, we know how little we know about it, isn't it? Haven't you? I'm sure many of you have had that feeling, at least, that when I studied a subject really deeply, then I said, oh my God, there's so much more to know I did not know. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
So yes. That tells us that, thank you, that tells us that what I know is also erroneous, and then I'm not trying to really get to the point of real understanding. So for me to really know that I am Atma, that I am Brahman, I am that I am, I'm the Tattvamasi, I must first eliminate all the cloudiness, the haziness, the nebulousness, the dirt on my mind, for me to embrace that clarity, the reality, that Suvarna stage of my mind. I have to get to that. And so it is also right to say, oh, you don't need to think about it, don't have to worry about your nature, you realize. Sure. 7 billion people are realized then, right? And those of us who really understand our nature, clarify our nature, take responsibility for it, for our own self, and know that this is who I'm made of, then the reality begins to sink in by experience, by dreams, by the presence of the entity we believe in. And that shows us that the worldly material success and gain is absolutely frivolous. How can he make us experience that? How can we come to that experience unless he takes away things from us? That's his shortcut of telling us, I'm helping you. I'm going to throw difficult situations at you so that you get removed from the world. That's why we have to strive to be alone. If we have no support, whom do we go to? Then we say, oh Lord, help me. And that's exactly how that shortcut is experienced by devotees like us. There is no other way of experiencing it. That's the only way. I don't think. Yes, Francis, go ahead. Good morning. It's good to see you. Yeah.
Good morning. So it's interesting you say about the time. I guess people would have realized that it was a certain number, of times where the seasons changed and then you got older and they would sense, they'd witness other people who got older and started to fade, let's say, or troubles became to the body. And then there's always this self-love for the existence and the preservation of the ego, body, mind. So I think instinctively people want to continue the prevalence of their I-ness, And I think even though, it's interesting when you talk about time, here we just celebrated New Year. I sense the artificiality of it all, but at the same time, at a certain level, surface level, it's out of control here in the world now. But I think going back, there was that understanding that the seasons and the continuation of existence was always self-love is really the ego I, right?
Correct.
Prior to this awareness that you're talking about. So thank you. I just wanted to, it's interesting. It's again, that's the intellect, right?
Yes.
So.
Yes. And thank you for revisiting that. Yes, because it's our egotistical thing that wants to clamor.
Yes, self-love is the paramount ego which gives rise to all kinds of validations in the form of intellect, which gives me all plausible reasons to stay attached to my ways of conducting my life, completely ignoring the cosmic presence, the consciousness, which is in fact the conductor of the whole existence. And I completely ignore it. That's my intellect, that's my ego.
Bandhuji, I would like to comment here, saying that what we are talking about today is so basic, so deep inside me, that the layers, there have been multiple layers that have been piled on to it. And it's a process of peeling those layers one by one or multiple at a time to reach that deep basicness of me, or I don't know of me, of what, to reach at that point is all. It's just peeling the layers off.
Yeah, the basal, the substratum.
Yes.
Of that is where we are trying to get to. And once we begin to get to that, then the vastness, the expanse, the colossalness of the cosmic entity opens up. Then we begin to see my food, my everything has been given unto me. I have to be thankful. Why do all the prayers, if you talk for a moment about ritualistic practice, which is one of the ways of getting to the Vichar marg. They are a crutch to get to the Vichar marg. Why do they all point to saying, I thank you, Lord, for this. I thank you for this, Lord. I thank you for this. If you look at the Vedic prayers, the Vedic chanting, what does it start with? Starts by thanking the Lord to make it possible for me to worship you, number one. Then it starts by saying, let me purify the area. Let me purify the pot that I am purifying the spot with. Let me purify the water that I'm purifying the spot with. Let me purify this. Let me purify this. Let me purify the flowers. Let me purify the sugandham. Let me purify this. And no doubt it goes unnecessarily to a level of cleansing a thing which God doesn't want us to do. But these are the ways given. For some, that's the path, to each his own. Fine, do that. But it's getting to the substratum of what is it that we are trying to get to. And here is the direct path. This is the most intense course given to us by somebody who experienced it, somebody who lived it and told us, and lived with it from the moment he had this experience of self-realization, from the age of 16 until the age of 70. Did not waver from it even for a day. Did not go anywhere, did not touch money, did not name himself, didn't have anything that you can say here. It is the simplicity of it that we have obscured with the complexity of it. It is not the experience of the absence of everything. It's the absence of the experience that we need to get to, and we don't. Hope that made sense. And once we begin to get to it, the whole perception of the world, our life, our setbacks, everything changes. It just changes, doesn't go away. And Bhagavan will talk about that we, in question number 7 or 8, about the world and the reality of the world. Please read it when you get a moment so that one can begin to absorb it and enjoy it. And we don't have to memorize anything. We don't have to really know anything. We don't have to know the scriptures to get to the stage of self-realization. We don't. It'll come to us. And that's the faith, that this clarity, when we begin to unpeel ourselves, that clarity begins to have. Just as Bhagavan said, if you just stay with who am I, and the thought will keep coming back, the mind will keep telling you, I'm thinking. He'll say, stay with who am I? Clarity will happen, and you will be self-realized. It's a process.
Is the grace. If we are earnest and we honestly pursue this inquiry, then grace happens. Also to note here, I did say that you keep repeating, Bhagavan would say, clarity will happen. Bhagavan also has said that just repeating, who am I, as a japa. Japa is a repetition of the same chant, So who am I, who am I, who am I, who am I? If you just keep doing that, nothing will change. He rather would want us to inquire into who am I, not use it as a chant, not use it as a japa. So, if we continue to do that, then the grace dawns on us, it comes to us, and then our life is changed. And unfortunately, when the grace begins, as mortals, it throws a lot of difficulties towards us. And this concept of difficulties is very difficult for those devotees who have not experienced it. Only the ones who have experienced would be able to confidently say that he only purifies me meaning us, by making me go away from the world. How can he make us go away from the world? Only if the world becomes difficult for me. And that's what happens.
I guess it's like the, surrendering everything. Christ said, if you die to this life, then you'll have everlasting life. I know that I'm getting older and physically challenged in certain aspects, and you want to maintain, right? The body wants to continue. And so we try to do the medicine, the doctors, all that. And it's almost like we have to surrender even that.
Yes.
The spirit, which is formless nothing,
Yes.
It's hard to surrender.
Thank you for raising these perplexing issues, if I can call it issues. These are very salient points, and everybody please pay attention. Francis raises always very, very interesting perspectives, and his own clarity about Christianity is so good. But anyway, let's take one at a time. About losing your life. The one who finds his life will lose it. From Matthew, right, Francis, I think. And he who loses his life for my sake will find it. This is as many times Francis has drawn a parallel between Christian perspective and Hindu perspective, or non-Advaita Vedantic perspective, I should say. So here again, when we say lose my life, that's the who am I that we are supposed to do. If I do that who am I very, 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 very earnestly, honestly, diligently, vehemently, never ever failing to observe that, then definitely I'll begin to lose my life. Losing my life meaning losing things that make me stick to the world. And this is a very deep concept, but that's number one. Secondly, you also talked about body wanting to continue. Actually, body is insentient. Body by itself doesn't decide. It's the mind that tells me that my body must continue with the best of treatments and best of this and best of that. And there's nothing wrong with it. We are not condemning that at all. For example, I break my foot. If I fall down, I have to go for surgery or a cast. Or if I develop some kind of a tumor or something, I have to treat it. But the thing is that I should be detached from how well my body will function after I go through the medical treatment that I go through. And I should be detached from it. I should be ready to say it doesn't matter to me. At the same time, keep the perspective in mind that everybody doesn't have this kind of facility, these kinds of facilities and treatments available to them in whichever corner of the world they may be living in. Also, you raised the point about spirit. And now let's understand spirit we can call Atma or the soul. And that is nothing. My transfer. So this soul, what is soul? It's my transfer station. It is my junction from where I merge with the self. As my mind diminishes and as my mind begins to lose control over my egotistical definitions, then my self expands. My self becomes larger, 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 larger. So that's what I'm supposed to... these are very, very good points that Francis has raised. And then surrender. So what is surrender? And initially we talked about it. And I said, yeah, partial surrender is possible. Bhagavan has said, surrender will happen after we have merged, after we have found the I, the egotistical I, to merge with the I. Merging, that final merging with the I that pervades, the I that does not diminish, the I that is always existent, the I that is palpable like a hridaya, heart. That final I that I will merge with is my ultimate step. And therefore, my egotistical I will diminish and my self will proliferate, will expand. And then I will get beyond. What will be that expansion? What will be that self-realization? That self-realization will be that I shall then get beyond the cycle of life and death and life and death and life. It will be beyond that. I will be like a spirit, to use again that term that Francis used. But thanks a lot, Francis. I hope this throws some light as a devotee to devotee. But I'll tell you one thing for sure, that Bandhu speaks from his own personal experience with Bhagavan. And Bandhu speaks with the reflection of his own life. We get completely, once we are absolutely pure, only we can understand. By we, I mean the person or the people who have become very, very true devotees. Mumukshu. Mumukshu is somebody who has a very strong desire for liberation. When I become more than a devotee, when I become a mumukshu, where I have a strong longing to be beyond this cycle of life and death, beyond this wretched world, and then the grace begins. That's my understanding. Thank you, Francis. Thanks again. Hari Om.
That said, we'll conclude today's session. I just realized it's already 8 minutes past 10 o'clock. Anyatha sharanam nasti tvameva sharanam mama tasmat karunya bhave rakshamam ramneshwara rakshamam ramneshwara rakshamam ramneshwara. Thank you all.
Bantu.
Thank you.
Again, thank you. We'll meet next week.
Bye.
Thank you.
Arunachala.
Arunachala. Arunachala.